let's just take turns. What do you feel about the SEC this year?
Who can extend from the middle of the pack? I think the middle of the pack has a great chance to cannibalize itself. The amount of teams that you could sit here and convince me, or I could convince you, or we together could convince the viewers are going to win 9 or 10 games, but also those same teams could win 4 to 6 games. I think it's probably 5 or 6 in the league, all the way down to 14, 15 in the league. Why are one of those teams going to extend? Why are one of those teams not going to extend? Is it just going to be a bunch of 6 and 7 win teams? Are some of the teams not named Georgia, not named Texas going to end up with 10, 11, maybe 12 wins? I don't know. And there are certain teams, Josh, that I go day to day that I'll gain momentum on. Like, I'm a little down on Tennessee right now. No major reason as to why. I just look at true freshman quarterbacks in this league. How often has it been really good? Not much. It hasn't. I love their offensive line. I love their starting running back. Don't know what the entire running back situation looks like. It's a new defense. People forget that defensive line has been loaded the last couple of years, and the defense still irresponsible at times. But Josh has done a great job. I could totally be wrong on that. I'm a little down on Missouri right now. But I love the O-line, even without Ahmad Hardy. I love Jamal Roberts. I think Brett Norfleet is the best dual threat tight end in the SEC. And we know what kind of talent Austin Simmons has, but it's just – you measure these and, ifs, buts, ors on all these teams, and certain days I'll be up, certain days I'm way up on Florida right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of that's just overall talent, and I'm a big fan of John Sumrall and how he's going to manage and handle things. But who are the teams that are going to extend? Are we all going to get caught in the middle? And if that does happen, what does the national thought process turn into on the perception of the SEC?
So, I mean, are you, and just give me a yes or no on this because I'm about to dive on it for a second. Are you a believer in that whole Texas, Georgia Tier 1, 5 more teams Tier 2, clear separation, in other words, and then you go down to your Missouri, South Carolina, whoever? Like, is that how you see this right now?
I don't know if I had that many teams in Tier 2.
Really?
To be
What's the
perfectly
cutoff?
honest with you, I might have Tier 1, Texas, Georgia, today. This will be different tomorrow. Maybe take Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Tier 1B, kind of Tier 2, and then Tier 3. Maybe we go A&M, Alabama, LSU, something along those lines. I'm a little down on A&M right now. I think the losses on the defensive line in Torrey, York are going to hurt worse than people think. I love Elko. The scheme's incredible. The offensive line's being rebuilt. It's still a new offensive coordinator. We don't know how that's going to look with Marcel Reed. You don't have as many weapons as you had a year ago. Is it all going to work? I don't really know how that's going to look. So they're a little bit down. Now, are they going to win? They're going to be bowl eligible. They're going to win 8, 9 games maybe. But we're talking being a playoff contender, get in and win a couple games in the playoff. I don't know if they're there for me just yet.
Yeah.
Alabama's still a big mystery for me. They would be in sort of that next tier for me as well.
Here's what I'm asking. All right, so like let's say it roughly shakes out that way. My question is, if we get to first week of November, has the bottom of the league more meshed with the middle of the league in terms of results? Or has the middle of the league meshed with the top of the league? By that, I mean you've got Oklahoma taking down Georgia, or you've even got like Florida mixing it up with some teams. Right. Or is it Kentucky makes noise, Missouri makes noise? I kind of want to figure that out because to me that speaks to the broader question of, all right, is this just a really deep league with no elite at the top? Or are there 2 shark fins, 3 shark fins that could really pop up and match up way down the road with an Oregon or a Notre Dame or whatever?
I think you have a little bit of both because I think Georgia can win a national title. I think, obviously, Texas can win a national title just based on talent. I still have my question marks with kind of both of those teams, really, but I have question marks with every team that can win a national title this year. But I do think what you referenced about the bottom is also going to be true because I think K.J. Jackson and Arkansas are going to get a team or 2 this year. I think Mississippi State, if that offensive line is truly repaired and Kamario Taylor's making quick decisions the way that he needs to, I think they're going to be a handful. It's pick and choose what you're concerned with. With Mississippi State, Josh, I'm just more concerned about where the roster is going to be at the end of October. I mean, they are going to be full tilt on offense, full tilt on defense. Can you survive that with a roster that's not built great from a depth perspective anyway, which kind of nobody is? So there are things about all these teams that I feel like when we're talking about Auburn, South Carolina, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi State, they're going to be able to reach up and grab somebody and be a problem. Can they do it each and every week? And that's what Indiana mastered last year was consistency. They gave you the same product almost every single week that they went out. Very few teams are doing that in college football right now. So I think you will have one or two teams separate. That could be Ole Miss, Georgia. That could be Texas, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, whatever it is. Maybe Oklahoma, Bama sneak up and they're one of those teams. But I also think the bottom's going to be stronger because let's just say Kentucky, you brought them up. This is the most talented Kentucky roster on the offensive side of the ball I have ever seen. And they're proven commodities. Now, some of the proof is limited. It's fair. But guys who we know can play. Does that work for 8 of 10, 12 weeks? We don't really know because it's also a new head coach and it's a lot of other new there. But they're going to be dangerous in certain weeks. They're one of the teams I'd rather play late than early because them healthy, I think, is going to be very different than them beat up. Same with Mississippi State.
All right, here's something I feel. No one has more respect for Georgia than I do. So I picked Georgia to win the SEC. I feel like Georgia's the best equipped team to win the SEC. And then at the same time, I don't feel like they're the most equipped SEC team to win the national championship. So my thinking there is I love their style. I love their identity. I trust them the most to make it to Atlanta. Okay. Therefore, like I could go either way on Texas. I could go either way on Ole Miss. Those are much more high variance teams, in other words. Whereas Georgia, the floor is insanely high with them. Like it would utterly shock me to fast forward to December and you tell me, man, Kirby lost 4 or 5 games this year. That's a scenario that would shock me. So on that front, I feel really good about them getting to Atlanta. I feel really good about betting on them to win it. But then if you tell me Texas is in the playoff, or if you tell me Trinidad, Chambliss, and Ole Miss are in the playoff, if you tell me Keelan Russell really was everything someone thought he could be, or if you tell me Oklahoma, John Mateer really did take the next step, more heroic in the true sense of how college football is supposed to be played. I believe the highest of highs for those teams may be a little bit higher in a postseason setting than Georgia's able to reach. And that's a really, really weird thing to try and explain because it's just like last year. Like it's just like last year. Ole Miss is not making a run to Atlanta to win it, but then they run into Georgia in the playoff and they beat them after Georgia's already.
Last 2 Georgia playoff appearances you think impacting that?
You mean me seeing them go one and done?
Correct. And just how they played in those games.
Probably a reasonable amount, but then again, if I try and say this, and it's going to sound disrespectful to Gunnar Stockton, but I don't mean it to sound that way. But if I don't know if like Dante Moore transferred to Georgia today. I'm just picking a name out of it. It's CJ Carr transferred to Georgia today. Guys I feel really, really highly about. I couldn't care less what they did or didn't do the last 2 years. So it's part team that they're going to have on the field. Yeah. It's part I really want you to have at least a difference maker at wide receiver when you get to that level. I really want you to have that. And I don't know that they have it, but yet they've got so much consistency and so much ability to do that to you that I trust them in the SEC more than anyone.
I think receiver is a big reason you're saying this.
Yes, it is.
I think production or lack of in playoff appearances recently is a big reason you're saying this. Mm-hmm. I would just overweigh that with all the other things. I think they have a chance. Right there, they would be neck and neck with Notre Dame as having the best offensive line in college football heading into the season. We talked about on your show a year ago after, week 3, that I pretty much told you, like, Ohio State's got the Joe Moore Award right now. They looked like a bunch of trained killers out there that were just bouncing people out of the club, and then it took a nosedive towards the end of the season. So you don't know how it's going to go all year. I think there are more younger players on the Georgia roster that are going to explode this year that we're not talking about the way we're talking about Dante Moore, Trinidad Chambliss, whoever else.
Yeah, because one of them's a right guard.
Well, and one's a D tackle, and one's an outside linebacker, and one's a corner, and one's a safety. They just don't get the love that some other Georgia guys have gotten in the past.
All right.
I think they're going to be big-time players. I actually would disagree with part of what you said as far as being built to win a national title. Miami would be the reason I would give you that last year. Now, Malachi Toney, totally difference maker. I get it. But why did they really win those playoff games?
Because they were a steamroller.
Line of scrimmage, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and that doesn't mean Georgia has a Reuben Bain or even a Moton or whatever, but they are going to have dudes up front that can be problematic on both sides of the ball. Miami controlled games. That's why they went and won those football games. And I think, too, you have 2 coordinators at Georgia that are not overly stubborn. Now, Georgia fans are going to hate this. I'm sorry. I apologize to you guys, and I get it. But Bobo has done an exceptional job, specifically the last 2 years. How to move the pieces, alignment, personnel groupings. He finds ways to produce things, and then they have great players on top of that. They're going to be a matchup nightmare on offense because they have so many tight ends. They have a legitimate run game that can be downhill, that can move you and push you around. Very few teams in this country can do that. Miami, with some youth on the offensive line being injected this year, I'd give them a good chance to get there just because how Mario runs it and what they've been. Like historically, traditionally, they're probably going to have that. They just have some pieces we hadn't seen just yet. And I'll go back to the last 2 national champions. One thing that you and I hadn't talked about yet, but I think you heard Greg and I talking about it this morning, who is going to be the greatest team? We've gotten so far away from that with give me your highlight wide receiver. Who's our flex guy that we can move around? Who's our edge rusher? Like all the cool things in football are fun to talk about and fun to watch. Who does the stuff that nobody else likes? That's what Indiana did last year. That's what Ohio State did 2 years ago. Like, who's the best at a combination block, staying with it and coming off on the linebacker late? When you want to run a twist, who's the unselfish linebacker that knows he's not going to get a sack, but he'll try to dent the face mask of your guard so the defensive end can wrap around and get the sack or TFL for himself? That's what we don't know, and that's what I would lean heavily on Georgia with right now.
I do love, as you look at their schedule, they're going to play Mateer, they're going to play Keelan Russell, they're going to play Trinidad Chambliss, and they're going to play Lenora Sellers in the regular season.
And I'll go back to this. Everyone at SEC Media Days wanted to dial in, harp on, spend time talking about the lack of sacks. If you really watch their defense, if you dive into it last year, they got to the quarterback a lot. Their pressure rate was high middle of the pack in the SEC. Their sack rate was very low. So that'll be a great test there to say, we got to the quarterback last year. This year, we have to get the quarterback to the ground. That's what they did a poor job of a season ago. And I think Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, that staff can find a way to manufacture a little bit more of that with how they rush, where they rush from, and maybe having a couple more individuals that are going to give them some, like Quintravious Johnson, I think, Cole, I think, are guys that are going to play hybrid spots for them, and they can manufacture different ways to not allow that to happen as much.
All right, ball's in your court. Go ahead. What do you feel?
About Georgia or just the SEC?
No, remember before we press record and we went over the format and what we were going to do?
Yeah.
This is your turn to just completely lick your index finger, turn the page, and tell me something totally new that you feel.
I usually do not feel hurt feelings with you, but being like the 5th or 6th person to be asked to come in here and sit down with you would be towards the top of the list right now. It's disrespectful, number one, is what it is. But it was all laid out early in our pre-show meeting where it's a numbers game. It's about numbers for you. And that's fine. If that's where you want to go, and that's how we're going to operate things here. So viewers at home, no, it's not about content. It's not about ball knowledge anymore. It's just a clown show that's looking to produce numbers. That's what you're dealing with.
But I'll tell you what we haven't done. We haven't sold out on this show.
Not like some other podcasts that try to talk
look,
college football out there that we know have.
As I cover up the label of this water bottle, if there's one thing you know about us, we're not going to sell out. And I've read your comments, and I can't say the same about you lately. Shame on you.
The other thing is, and you've heard me say this, survive October, hit your over. The amount of mid-season runs that these SEC teams have to make, like you look at Auburn's October, it is filthy.
Oh, it's gross.
Mississippi State's October, Florida's October. I mean, some of these teams, you could literally, Josh, look at a 4-game stretch and say, if you split that, you may be contending for a playoff spot.
Here's what's great about Mississippi State's October. They have a bye, and it's
still
more
out of control.
They got Alabama, at LSU, and Oklahoma. Keep your bye. Just have your bye. It's still brutal. Auburn, just for those who don't know, you're going to go at Tennessee. Hold on, October. There it is.
I
at
think they have a bye in there too, actually.
They do. And then it's at Georgia, LSU, and then let's close it up Halloween with at Ole Miss.
So let's seriously think about that. Stack some wins early, go on a run late. How many teams can literally just survive October in the SEC?
Yeah.
Only drop 1 or split 2 out of 4, and you could be sitting pretty going into November and be able to make a run late. Now, there are some teams like Oklahoma who have just disgusting finishes to their schedule. LSU would be another one that comes to mind that you're going to have to get hot late. The other thing, too, is I think there are some games out there that we're not pointing to that are going to be much more important or maybe much more dangerous
Where
than
are you
we
going?
talk about.
I got one right now, but I want to know if you're going there.
Well, I got 2. It's Ole Miss going to Florida and it's A&M at LSU the week after those two teams play. We have put all this hyper-focus, all this energy, all this drama, which is great. It sells. It's going to be fun when Lane goes back to Oxford. It's going to be incredible for a ton of reasons. I can't decide right now if I would rather be the coach. This sounds insane, and I get it, but I want you to hear me out and try to think about it. I don't know if I would rather be the coach that wins that game or loses that game. Because if you are Pete Golding and you win that game, the library ain't going to close that week. It'll literally just stay. And they, by the way, they're in Gainesville the next weekend, so it might just stay open for 2 weeks.
Right.
Those big red trash cans in the Grove, they'll just leave them and say, y'all can keep your tents out here and your chandeliers in your tents. And like, we don't care anymore because we just won this game. Coming back down to earth from that win, especially for those guys that were on that team for the playoff run last year, is going to have monumental difficulties. On the flip side of it, Pete Golding wins that game. Think about how many people are telling that team how great they are, how much they love them, what they've already accomplished. That's a dangerous spot to be in, too. Now, Lane's group, it won't be as emotional for them, but they've been hearing this noise this offseason.
Yep.
They've been talking about this. All of a sudden, you go lose that game. You're feeling sorry for yourself. Here comes Elko's A&M team into your place, and if your offensive line's not figured out, and you got to go against that front and those looks, or if you're Ole Miss and you drop that game, and you got to go play a John Summerall coach team that you know is looking for a fist fight. They are ready to punch you square in the nose, only to find out if you want to punch back. The only thing that they're going to care about in half the games that they play. So I look at those two games that weekend as ones we are not talking about. Now, I think you have some other swing games like Auburn, Florida.
Well, that's one no one's talking about either, and that precedes the ones that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the same week LSU plays Ole Miss. So I'll grant you not many people are going to have it on their radar screen. But if you think about how these early games happen, okay, so if we walk through this right quick, Auburn opens against Baylor. They're about a touchdown favorite, but you know, very losable game. They win that game. They come home a couple of weeks later, and you're going to have Florida rolling into town. At that point, they're both undefeated, presumably. If Florida wins that game, they come home to face Ole Miss either way, coming off the LSU game.
Correct.
It just continues. Like you've talked about this. We've touched on this for a number of months because you've just had to sit on this schedule talk for a number of months. If you're talking sleepers in the SEC, and you keep on looking, all right, where's the path? Where's the path? Where's the path? It doesn't take a whole lot of mental gymnastics to say, all right, let's see, Florida, they start 2-0. They go to Auburn. That's a really tight game. Let's, for the sake of argument, give it to them, 3-0. They got Ole Miss coming in there the week after LSU. Either way, I could chalk that up as a win, 4-0. They go to Missouri. They should out-personnel Missouri, 5-0. South Carolina's got to come to the Swamp. Mm-hmm. That could be 6-0. And then it's like it takes you about 20 or 25 seconds to put Florida 7-0 going to Austin.
Yep. And we saw how that one's gone. So one thing I know John Summerall is going to do is bring more fight, more physicality to that roster. And we can say one of the same things about Florida. Esteemed ball knower Jesse and I were talking about this before the show today. The laundry list of teams in the Southeastern Conference right now that we could talk about a 2-game swing based on offensive line performance this year is staggering. Mm-hmm. Staggering. The teams that we could say, I could see them winning 9, I could see them winning 6, or I could see them winning 7 or 9, or 8 or 4, whatever it is, strictly based on we do not know what you're going to have with your offensive line. Here are the teams that I have confidence in their offensive line going into this year. Ready? Georgia.
And?
Tennessee.
And?
Ole Miss.
That's 3.
Fiend.
That's 3.
That's all.
You don't even have to relegate that to the SEC. Because you can say the same thing about...
It's a national conversation.
It's crazy.
Right. But Notre Dame, I love your group. Indiana, I love your group. I actually have, we talked about it, I have confidence in Miami's group, even if I don't know a little bit about it. I'm never going to say that I think one of Mario's offensive lines is going to be a liability. It's not going to happen. Now, Ohio State, maybe. Here's one of the things with Ohio State. We'll talk national a little bit later. When you look at when they've been great, they have had a freaking dude at tight end. Now, here's where that gets cloudy because when we say dude at tight end, everybody thinks Tradez Green or Kyle Pitts. No. They've had Jeremy Ruckert. Like, they've had G. Scott. They've had that dude at tight end that literally wants to run a hole through your chest. Do they have that this year? I don't know. But they've been great when they've had that guy. And he helps their offensive line, usually when they do have that. So it's even a little bit of a question with Ohio State right now. Now, Iowa, do I have concerns there? No, but there's other concerns that are going to allow us to say, can you go win those big games? If you get into a shootout, how's it going to go? But it is also a national conversation. It just feels like it's highlighted more so in the SEC because, Josh, the confidence we have with other areas, like Mississippi State, I like your receivers. I love your running back. I think your quarterback's got immense talent. Your defense is now going to attack and be tough to manage. Is your O-line going to be better? Alabama. Keelan Russell, highest rated recruiting program in history. They're going to be able to lean on that receiver core. I don't really know what you're going to be like at running back. I love Josh Ford at tight end. He's going to help the O-line no matter what. Your defensive secondary is going to allow your front to do anything they want, which Kane did from the LSU game on last year. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what your O-line is going to look like. And it doesn't matter how good Keelan Russell is if he's running for his life. So Auburn is in that boat. Missouri is in that boat, and I have confidence in their O-line. But there's still some changes, and Chip Lindsey comes in. Don't know exactly how that thing's going to be run. It's almost up and down. LSU. People say LSU's in the playoff. They might be. Jordan Seaton going to come in, and all of a sudden is it better? Now, I love that you bring James Craig back. I love that you got Eric Wolford helping coach that group. Like, their chances of being successful on the offensive line are better than some other teams because of all the things they've added. But, man, it feels A&M. Marcel Reed, great SEC quarterback. Completely revamped offensive line. Don't know exactly what it's going to look like.
Past month or so, I felt myself starting to go a pretty opposite direction of the public on Alabama. There was a point in the summer where if you pinned me down, I would have said 8-4, 9-3 maybe if I was feeling a little aggressive that day. And now I'm more in the 9-3, 10-2 camp. So Keelan Russell, I'm not going to say it's because he got announced the starter, because a lot of people were kind of leaning that direction. But I don't know. I went down there and watched them last week. I guess the areas that I thought were going to be big concerns for them, linebackers one of them, for example, I just don't think are nearly as big a concern as I thought they were going to be. And then the other thing, which I think is just going to take people watching them play this year before you really realize it, is how thoroughly they overhauled their defensive front.
Yeah.
The personnel they brought in, man, you don't really have to wait for the game. Your eyes can see the difference in warm-ups. Then live bullets fly, and you got to play, and you got to back it up. But I think you were mentioning the tight end position a second ago with Ohio State. They had, what was it, 2 years ago, they had Cuevas there.
He was there last year, too. It's just when he was hurt last year.
And was hurt.
They were a different team when he wasn't in the lineup.
And so they brought in Ford at tight end. They got a couple of guys at tight end that are pretty versatile in the way you were talking about Ohio State having tight end versatility. But I don't know, man. The attrition on the offensive line there, taken into account, you can tell me if this makes sense because you played the position. I feel like the bodies that they have on the offensive line this year, the personnel they have, the traits they have on the offensive line, probably fits what they want to do better than the personnel that they had last year. So even if you're replacing 4 of 5, like the public will look at them losing a first-round draft pick at left tackle, and they'll say, that's going to be a massive downgrade.
Right.
I don't necessarily know that Jackson Lloyd at left tackle mid part of the season and on this year is going to be looked at for what Alabama wants to do as a downgrade. But I fully understand why the public would think that. I can fully understand why the public would look at them and say, man, they sucked running the ball last year, because they did. And, I mean, who do they have this year? They got the same guys back and then a couple of true freshmen. I think the true freshmen are the best guys in the room. A.K. Deere, pre-injury, probably looked pretty good. But I don't know. I think it could come together for them. So I've trended up, I think, as I've sensed the nation kind of cool on them a little bit.
Well, you got a couple of things going for you. And then go back 2 years ago, C.J. Dupree, Robbie Utes at tight end.
Right.
So they have been better when they've had that guy also. They have two great offensive minds that can put together a game plan. I'm not going to get away from that. I'm never going to not believe that because I've seen them do it at Fresno State, at Washington, at Indiana. Wherever they've been, they've done it. They'll do it at Alabama. But you can't be one-dimensional in college football anymore. They have to be multidimensional. There are things about Keelan Russell that I absolutely love. When you watch him leave the pocket, you can watch the stripe on his helmet. It will stay with the receiver the entire time, and it's why he's able to make those quick decisions to not run, get rid of the football. He doesn't scramble, in my opinion. He leaves the pocket to gain an advantage.
Good way to put it.
Now, you'll see a lot of guys that all of a sudden it just comes discombobulated. They look this way, that way, they do 360s. Now, John Mateer can get away with that because he's just freak show athlete, and that's kind of his game. Like early Bo Nix could do that. Like those are the kind of guys they were. Keelan Russell is not that guy. He is, in my opinion, very distinct with what he wants to do when he begins to leave the pocket, and he leaves one or two options open, and he's deliberate with how he does it. I'm a fan of his game. They still have to protect him.
Psst, very, very, very quick timeout. I'm begging you, please subscribe to the channel. It's free for you. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps us. That's it. Support college football. Okay, back to the clip.
I think it's a question mark what the run game is going to look like because of the running backs right now, mainly because they've been dinged up in practice. Like that's a position that, whether we're talking LSU, we're talking Alabama, like, do you have a guy? One of the other things we were talking about before the show, we love talking about takeover guys. Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart. How can South Carolina not win 8 games, have these takeover guys? What teams have make you quit guys? Because when I played college football, and some of the college football teams we've seen be great in recent memory, they got guys that flat out make you not want to be out there anymore. Does Bama have that guy or those guys? And then we could go a step further and say, who really does?
Yep.
Now, I think Josh Ford's that guy. I think Josh Ford is a make-you-quit guy, but how much can he really impact the everyday offense? You can have him 11, 12 personnel, whatever you want to do. You can flex him. You can put him in the backfield. He can help, but not oftentimes do we say a tight end takes over a game when they're not catching 10 or 12 balls in a game.
Right.
Just kind of what it is today. I think they lean on the receiver group. I think Ryan Williams bounces back. Like he went from 4 drops to 13 drops. You realize his actual receiving production was not that different, catches and yards. Now, touchdowns was different, but the drops were what was different last year, and I think he gets back from that. I think you have enough of a solid core of receivers to take some of the pressure off, run the ball through the air, so to speak. Like I said before, the secondary is going to allow the front to be much more active. So I see where you're going with Alabama. There are still some big ifs. Offensive line being number one. Linebacker depth is still a problem, regardless. And they had it last year, but they survived it because they didn't get dinged up last year at linebacker. And if they would have, they'd have been in big trouble. So I think they have a little bit better depth going into the season than they did fall camp. They developed a couple of guys. So I think they're going to be, if the public's really on them winning 8 games. See, I do radio in Birmingham, so my vision's clouded here. It's either fire Kalen DeBoer or win a national championship. Like, we only have that. Those are the only 2 things that we have on our show. But I see Alabama in the 9 to 10 range. And if it's less than that, something fell apart.
Yeah.
If it's less than that, the offensive line was worse than last year. The quarterback doesn't know what to do when he drops back. Like, something bad has happened if it's less than 9 wins, in my opinion.
I'll tell you the other thing that kind of stood out to me before we move on from them is when I watched them the other day, every other big play, every other jaw dropper out there was a true freshman making the play.
Yeah.
And that's Ced Morgan at wide receiver. Jaira Edwards is an insanely good football player. At safety, I know he got dinged up a little bit, but they'll get him back pretty quick. The Trayshawn Brown kid, who for 9/10 of the recruiting cycle, they probably didn't even pay attention to,
right?
Who a spot opens up at the last minute for, and they take him sight unseen. Hey, come here instead of Boise. Okay. Like, that guy's going to get carries for them very early. I think one of the big questions actually is, I think a lot of their season hinges on how impactful those freshman tailbacks are going to be. Because they'll be not too bashful about telling you how good they think E.J. Crowell can be, but he hadn't been available a whole lot, okay? To me, it spoke volumes that they took all that into consideration and still said, buddy, when he's on the field, it's a different game.
Different.
It's just a different game.
And he may end up being one of those guys we talked about. Like, Alabama has had make-you-quit running backs before.
Yeah.
They get that. That makes the O-line's life easier, which makes the quarterback's life easier, which makes the receiver's life easier. So they haven't had that in a couple of years now. That guy that 25, 30 times a game, we can hand it to you, and you're going to be able to get it done.
All right. I want to talk about Florida in a more extended manner because I have sensed from you've got a little aura about you with Florida right now. The side of the lips curl up a little bit. You get that look in your eye, and you start feeling like you want to say some really reckless, irresponsible, hyped up things about John Summerall's team this year. Am I correct?
I don't think they're reckless or hyped up. Still a lot new. I get it. But I look at what John Summerall has done in previous stops. I'll give you an example. We had John Summerall when he was the head coach at Troy on our radio show in Birmingham in about a 4-week span. The first time we had him on, Kamani Vidal went like 47 for 280. And the next time we had him on, their quarterback threw for 482 yards in the game. And I'm like, Coach, what are you? Like, we get you on and you're ground and pound. And he goes, you know what we are? We're whatever it takes to win the game. And Josh, I think sometimes viewers of college football do not understand the level of ego that at times is involved and can hold your team back.
Yeah, a system.
Or a player, or a play, or not going to a play. I mean, how many times have Auburn fans in the last 2 years wondered where 27 was going because he had gone off in the first quarter or first half and then literally vanished in the second half? And that's just one example of 100 we could throw out there of systems, players, plays that were just all of a sudden gone. It's one of the things like that Miami playoff win. I thought Shannon Dawson showed people right then and there, like, my ego is out of the window. I tried all this trickery. Every trick play we had imaginable, we ran it. And you and I were there on the sideline. We saw it. And we asked each other a couple times, like, can they even go draw another one up on the sideline in the grass to try to run? You know what he did? This ain't it. Mark Fletcher, go. And then he saved one, and he hit him on it when it counted. I think John Summerall just has that in him in general. Of if we have to rush 11 on every play, by God, we'll rush 11. If we need to play drop 9, we will play drop 9. He is not going to allow any of that to get in the way of his team. And then we start talking about make you quit takeover guys. Jaden Boss towards the top of my list in that category. Do we just think Eric Singleton can't play football anymore? Because 2 years ago at Georgia Tech, he was one of the best flex players in college football.
He's like the SEC's Nick Marsh.
And he's back with the guy who basically built him in that system. He can go in motion. He can be in the backfield. You can hit him down the field. He has reliable hands in traffic. He'll work the middle of the field, screen game. And then you have Dallas Wilson on the outside. And, by the way, Marcus May from Wake Forest, who is another big physical target that when I put his film on, I remember thinking, why is no one talking about this
He'd be
guy?
number one wide receiver at a lot of
In
places.
a lot of places.
Yeah.
So how are you going to defend them? And you can say, well, the offensive line might not be great. They might not be great. They might not have to be great. Because Buster's system, number one, is going to neutralize a lot of what you do as a defense. Outside zone, first thing is going to get going, so they're going to stretch you east and west. Then they're going to have plays that they hit you north and southwest. Quarterback run may not be as heavy as it was last year. Like, I don't know if there are not many Ram mans playing quarterback. That's an old school He-Man reference for you guys that don't know what that is. He had like a big metal head on. He would just run through walls. And that's what Haynes King essentially was in that offense last year, like a battering ram at quarterback. But I don't think he's going to have to be that. Aaron Philo needs to play point guard. And I'm actually talking old school point guard. I'm not talking take 14 threes a game point guard and never pass. Like, not James Harden. Like, he needs to be John Stockton. Pull the shorts up. Play your pick and rolls the way the system asks you to play them and get it done. And like on my latest episode of Cube Show, which you should all go subscribe to and watch, even though there's a giant call you read at the bottom of it, I still think you should pay attention to it. His manipulation of the offense and knowing how to fake here, when to pitch there, what read to come off of, when to throw the ball. Josh, that stuff's hard, dude. That stuff is so hard to do in an offense like that, and he already has that. That's why he won the job. He didn't win the job on arm strength. He didn't win it on straight line speed. He didn't win it because he's this giant physical runner. It's the biggest misnomer with Diego Pavia the last 3 years at Vanderbilt, or 2 years at Vandy, 3 years playing college football. Oh, he's tough, or he's fast, or he's this, that. Diego Pavia was most successful because the manipulation of the football and the offense. He knew how to read the fakes. He knew how to manipulate defenders. He knew how to read defenders, when to put his foot in the ground and go north and south, when to keep the ball, when to pitch the ball, when to hand it, when to throw it. I think Philo's going to be ahead of the game with all that stuff. And all he's got to do is distribute. Don't F it up and distribute. Oh, and by the way, another thing that you guys might not know about, Brad White's a really good defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's made some bones there.
He's really good. And what has Brad White done when he's had an elite edge rusher? Oh, yeah. They've gotten a lot of sacks, and his defense has been really good. And I think he's got that dude on the edge coming back this year. So, yes, I am super high on the potential for Florida this year.
All right, just put it out there. What's the record?
I think they win 9.
Oh, no, that's fine. You can point at me all you want to, Sophie. No, I'll see you guys here in December. But it's not like I don't want to pick Florida. I actually am very, very much rooting for them. It's just Jesse took a really hard stance in our production meeting the other day. Like disrespectfully hard. Like you'll see. Like me and John will show you. And you didn't even go down there with us. You didn't even meet him. You'd like him though, Jesse. I just want to reiterate that path that I tried to sell myself on a little while ago. Okay, the game at Auburn. Let's just say they win at 3-0. Okay, you get Ole Miss the week after that. Ole Miss is going to be shaken emotionally somehow.
Yeah.
Could be 4-0. At Missouri, could be 5-0.
Could
South
be a
Carolina.
Hardy less.
Sure. South Carolina at home the next week. Okay, then they go to Texas. Now, the outside world, maybe even the inside world, will tell you, yeah, that's where your luck runs out. Buddy, you notice who Texas plays the week before they play Florida?
It's a game that references a river being red, if I'm not mistaken.
And a shootout, at least on this show. So,
Love that.
All I'm trying to say is if Florida goes into the bye week 7-0 and they're headed to Atlanta, because that's where the game is against Georgia this year, hey, at least they get to face a high-level secondary there. You know, that wide receiver core will have a lot to deal with, but it could be, it certainly would be, if you told me outside that top group, that top 7 or whatever everyone's talking about in the SEC, outside of that group, if someone were to come out of nowhere or semi-nowhere, yeah, it would certainly be Florida. I always wonder, you know how every year in college football, not just the SEC, you're going to have one or two teams that get shot out of a cannon at the beginning of the year. All right, and then you find out how long football seasons are, and eventually you find out they had like 9 weeks worth of gas in the tank. That could still be Florida. I mean, they do have Georgia, Oklahoma.
Here's the reason Here's the
goodness.
reason they can circumvent what you're talking about.
They got athletes. That's why.
Well, yes, however, they're not going to try to win shootouts,
Yeah.
and they're not going to be a defense that moves, blitzes, pressures, and is overzealous on a high rate. Like they can conserve their bodies if they need to, just by how they play their base offense and defense. They don't have to play a reckless style of football. And now listen, it's great because a lot of the D coordinators are doing it now. You look especially now with what Mississippi State's going to be doing, with what Tennessee's going to be doing. I mean, Auburn's doing it. Oklahoma's doing it. Almost every team in the league is saying, forget it, man, we're coming after you. But that catches up with you too.
Yeah.
Like if you play at that rate and you don't, it's one of my big questions with Oklahoma. Can they do it frontline? Yes. Josh, they rolled 3 D lines in last year that were probably better than half the league's number ones. I don't know if they can do that this year. Same thing with Tennessee. We forget how good their individual defensive linemen have been the last 3 or 4 years. They're not as deep at that position as they are this year. So Florida, like Brad White doesn't have to win that way. He doesn't have to slant, stunt, twist, blitz. Like he can sit there and play 3 deep and try to take you out and pick you apart that way. Now, he'll get aggressive at times if he needs to, but I have some extra confidence in Florida that they are not going to have to punish themselves in wins like a lot of other teams will do. And that gives you body conservation as the season goes on. Boy, that was nerdy.
It was good. Push those glasses up. I mean,
Can I give you one more SEC?
Sure. I've actually been waiting for you to jump in.
This is one for you. Why not Ole Miss?
I've never said it can't be them.
Hey, nobody's accusing you of anything here, pal. There's no reason to get all defensive here, but the world, specifically the computers, despise Ole Miss.
Oh,
right
you're telling me they're an anti-model team? The models have risen up against them?
No one even knows what your model is created by or the genocide of is. So therefore, I can't accuse your model of having some orchestrated work against Ole Miss. But there are a lot of people that look at this and say, 9 wins, no. No way. Can't do it. And I can't figure it out because second best D-line in the league. I just told you probably right now with what they're going to have and what they're asked to do, probably a top 3 most capable offensive line in the league. You got Haas and Caleb Odom at tight end, so you're more than capable at tight end. The receiver question I think you could bring up, but they at least went and got bodies that have proven to be quality players at other places. Like you take a Horatio Fields. That Auburn staff raved about that kid.
Yeah, I've heard you
raved
say
about
that.
him. Doesn't mean he's going to catch 100 balls. Trinidad Keewan, we know that's a given. That's a given. An offensive scheme that's very similar to how it's been run prior, a guy that's actually been there prior. And I don't think you took a step back at the second, third levels of your defense. So is it just that much people don't want to give Pete Golding credit? Like, I don't understand it, because if you're going body for body, dude for dude, position group for position group, we should be talking about them with everybody else potentially extending, winning this league, or being in the playoffs.
All right. I talk about fortune cookie logic on the show a lot, bumper sticker logic, the kind of things that people often say that sound good as long as you don't break down thoroughly the statement. It just they say it and they hope you move on.
Got it.
All right. I had a guy do it to me recently is the reason I mentioned this. He was talking about Ole Miss. He's not a believer in Ole Miss at all. The person is not me, by the way, but I was talking to the person, and the person said there's such a sugar high effect about them. Like, sure, Pete got the job on an interim / full-time basis in the playoff, and sure, they geared themselves up and they had a whole lot of energy like a sugar high would give you, but that was a short time frame. That was a month that they had to be like that. But now he's got the whole weight of the job on him. And now he's going to find out how long a football season is. And basically, he was saying all this stuff that I guess on one hand you could listen to and say, all right, in theory, I kind of get the logic behind what you're saying, but where's the root system of it?
Yeah.
What? And this is kind of what I was asking, and it was rhetorical because I didn't have time to get an answer, but I was asking, what specifically does Pete not possess the ability to do that a head coach has to do to win? Because it's certainly not that he lacks the players. The players will be there. The same quarterback that I'm talking to the guy still. Same quarterback you fell in love with last year is there. Same tailback you fell in love with is still there. Still got pretty good defensive personnel, pretty good line of scrimmage play. So what is it? And it was just, Meemaw was a big believer in the phrase hem-hawing. There was a lot of hem-hawing around because there weren't really football-related reasons.
No, I love the sugar high thing, because what's our excuse been about all these teams that have buys that can't win in the playoffs? Oh, you can't just sit around for a month and go win a football game.
That's true. That's true.
Eat more sugar then, I guess.
Very sedentary.
Like, I don't really understand that. And if Pete Golding was able to manufacture that in a short period of time, which I don't think he manufactured it, I just think he had them prepared to go play a game, why would he not be able to replicate that for at least portions of a season that they were going into? So
here's what the reaction would be. Well, the formula is just different. Again, they would just hope you move on from that one.
Yeah, the formula is to win games.
But it's different
I think
in the playoffs.
Pete Golding has a pretty decent idea what that formula is. I don't get it, man. Like I think Lane Kiffin's an exceptional coach. I also think Pete Golding is prepared for this moment. I think he's been put in a great spot by what was on that roster. He still retained it. Did they all have a chance to leave?
Yes,
they
did.
all could have left, right? Like, you've said this about Indiana before, and people who want to pull they're so old. Could other coaches have not gone and gotten these guys?
Yeah, could you guys have not offered those same kids?
I didn't know they were only available to one team.
All right, it's Indiana exclusive.
I didn't know the Ole Miss guys didn't have an opportunity to leave. So I literally do not understand why we look at this and say, no, Ole Miss can't do that. They can't be that. The schedule has been a little bit lighter, yes. But I address schedule like this. The better you are, the easier your schedule is.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who you play, because if you wanted to just play that game all the time, you would have been talking about how impossible Georgia's schedule was the last 2 years. And some of the Saban Alabama schedules, you would have been talking about how the same things we said with Arkansas and South Carolina the last 3 years, you'd have been saying that about Alabama's schedule. And you'd been saying about that some Florida schedules when Urban was there and other schedules. But no, it's not that hard because those teams are good. Your schedule is as easy as you are good. It doesn't matter who you play. It's just how good you are. And like we talked about before, who's going to be the better team? Better teams, good teams find ways to win games. You don't have to have a takeover guy or a make you quit guy. You find ways to win games. So the schedule thing is fun and cool to talk about, and yeah, it's more difficult for Ole Miss, but I just think they're going to be good. So therefore, I don't really obsess with who's on the schedule and who's not on the schedule, because I think they're going to be a good football team.
So earlier this morning, I was talking to Teddy Lehman and Gabe Eichert behind your back about our thoughts on Oklahoma and about the rumors on your thoughts about Oklahoma. And so I want to put this out there for you, because I'm a big John Mateer guy. I've got his poster on my wall. I love heroes.
That fits, by the way.
Let me finish.
You two being on the same page.
I love heroes. I love people who do heroic things. I love people who have a heroic aura about them. And so when you say hero ball, I want to sign up for it.
Cool.
Now, I think I know what you mean by hero ball. But I also think, if I can speak for John, I also think he's got a little bit more in him this year than he did last year, because I think he's got a little bit more around him this year than he did last year. So you were just talking about schedule being as easy or as difficult as you make it. Well, if I'm going to go down the Oklahoma road, could we not have said Oklahoma's got an impossible task on their hands?
We did say that a year ago.
Yeah, well,
we said it. They can't win 8 games. They can't win 7 games.
And then there they are hosting a playoff game. 50 Cent in the house, hosting a playoff game. Probably in retrospect, a terrible decision because the game turned after
Would
that.
not repeat that.
But they made it, and they were an incredibly flawed team. They ended up facing an incredibly flawed team in the first round, so someone had to win that game. But I'm trying to do, the copy-paste year-over-year thing. So if I take that team into this year, but I think O-line play will be better. You trust the O-line coaching out there, right?
Yes, Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the best in the business.
All right, so I've got another year of seasoning there. I blindly believe in John Mateer. I think they'll be better at tailback this year. I think they're better equipped to run the ball this year than they were last year. I will never doubt defense with them. But I thought you made a point, or it was probably McElroy that made the point this morning. But anyway, on that show you're on in Birmingham.
Was it a good point?
Yeah, that's why I said it was McElroy. Yeah. So you guys were talking about Oklahoma, and you're talking about the physicality that their schedule will present them. They have to go to Michigan. And so if you think about styles offensively that these teams are going to pose, threats offensively that these teams are going to pose, you've got to play Michigan in week 2. They are going to play at Georgia. They are going to play Texas and Dallas. They're going to play Camario Taylor on the road. They're going to play at Florida. They got Ole Miss. They got Texas A&M. So there are like half a dozen opportunities for them to face, I don't know, top 20 caliber rushing outfits, personnel, however we were supposed to phrase that in the preseason. So you were talking about the depth. You were talking about the waves of offensive or defensive linemen that they could throw at you last year. I know everyone else's concern with them would be offensive. And it's not like I've had that fully alleviated until I see them able to run the ball.
Right.
But man, if I have a concern with them, it may actually be the totality of the body blows that schedule puts on them, which is crazy because I told myself I'd never question Venable's defense. I'm not questioning the X's and O's or the tactical nature of it. I'm literally questioning the ability to withstand that entire season.
Because we saw when they don't operate the way that they want to or need to, Texas game, where they were completely stagnant, which means they didn't move. Go put that Texas film on. There were no slants, no stunts, no twists, no pressures. I still hadn't gotten an answer for the hows and whys of that, but it was almost egregious as to how you manufactured yourselves in that game compared to all the other games. 2 other things quickly. 1, they don't have to go to Michigan. They get to go to Michigan.
They sure do.
Okay? It's an opportunity for them to prove what they are. And for someone who loves hero ball, let me just say that fits perfectly like a glove, because as someone who believes that they built all of this by themselves and does all of this by themselves on an everyday basis, it really does make sense that you would be such a fan of individual style football. So I wanted to clear the air there and get that out and let the folks understand what they're dealing with.
You notice how when people take personal shots at you, and in many cases warranted, you're really quick to step on their words, and I just let you cook. And what you're cooking's terrible. It smells horrible. It's burnt. It's no good. Throw it in the trash. Everyone knows. I mean, Bradley, am I not the most selfless first person to give praise elsewhere person that you've ever met? He's saying yes, probably.
He looks like Santa Claus delivering gifts right now. That's the grin that's on his face. So I'll just take that for my answer. Here, the O-line situation that we brought up earlier is going to, I think, define this team. Here's the good news for Oklahoma offensively. I don't think it's just about, is a running back capable? Is the offensive line going to be able to move people? There are a couple things that can happen, Josh, that can really change this for Oklahoma this year. Tight end is number 1. They had a tight end, it felt like, early in the season in Jared Kanik, and it was like a weapon. Remember the Michigan game? He had a couple huge catches, and then it's all of a sudden, well, where's the Kanik guy? He's not making plays anymore. I don't even see him out there. That position disappeared. They've added some pieces in the portal that I think could be really good. The other's Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle can control some of this. Don't give your quarterback the opportunity to play hero ball as much. call it and run it is what you would hear a coordinator say. Hey, John, we're running inside zone. Now, you are under control if we go left or go right, but you are handing the ball off. Simple as that. Don't give him the opportunity to allow some of the hero ball moments to maybe be things that hurt the offense, then hurt the team. Throw the ball in the stands. Honestly, if there's one thing I'd like to see a little bit more from John Mateer this year, it's just to give up on a play and throw it in the stands.
Second 10.
Second and 10, better than second 14 or 18. Now, it is totally fair to say, well, he also turns some of those potential second and 10s into 30-yard gains. He does.
Heroically.
But with how you were playing defense last year, you didn't need those.
True.
And if the run game picks up a little bit and he has other weapons outside of Satanga that he can lean on, he may not have to do those things. And again, I think that comes back to Ben Arbuckle learning more about himself, more about his quarterback. And in, what will this be, year 3 or 4 together? I know at least year 3
together, yeah.
Together. So they should be able to do that. They should be able to pull that off. Also keep in mind, like, when you're practicing offensive linemen and the guys that are going to play can't practice and then they play and then they have to come out because they're dinged up again in the game, it's like that musical chairs up front makes it almost an impossible task. There's no continuity, no feel, no chemistry. They may have a little bit more of that and still not be a great group, but developing a little bit of that could help in all these other things you're talking about. Listen, I think sky's the limit for Oklahoma. I really do. Yeah. And to solve the defensive question of being hyper-aggressive, moving on every snap, high pressure rate, whatever that is, if you're running the ball some, you don't have to do those things.
Huge shift.
You just play straight up a couple. Like, you can go out there and say, you know what, guys, we're playing base the whole series. We're up 2 scores. Figure it out. If they need to chew some clock, great. We know we can score on them again if we need to. And hell, put your 2s in, and you're good for a series or 2. So I think all of that can operate off of itself. But I think at the core of that could be the offensive coordinator and how he sort of orchestrates and manages things in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah. Quick timeout. Please subscribe to the channel. It's free for you. It doesn't sign you up for anything, and it helps us. That's it. Time in.
Go back. We'll start 4 years ago and then back further. If we would have seen an offseason like Texas Tech had just had, or honestly that LSU is dipping their toe in now,
Yep.
what would we be saying about the distractions or the other things and how much that was going to hamper their team and how much this team just, they can't be focused on football. But now, because there's just so much, we don't really pay attention to that.
It's totally upended the world. It is now almost the expectation. And there are some people out there, I haven't gotten myself here yet. There are some people out there, especially with LSU, because Lane's done the portal thing several times. There are people out there that'll say, oh, dude, that's a sweet spot. That's actually additive to have all these new pieces come in and to have all this churn and all this drama. It's like, that's a comfort zone. You'll never convince me that that's a sweet spot.
The difference with Lane is you never know what his intentions truly are. Like, there's a theory out there that he did this whole thing to get the rule put in place so it would just go away.
Yeah.
And honestly, Josh, I can't completely discount it because he at times is that much further ahead than everyone else. And other guys might be that much further ahead. He's not afraid to do it.
Correct.
Which would be the biggest difference is there's some guys that are thinking, boy, if we could just that and maybe pull this off. And he just says, you know what, forget it, we'll do it. And I'll find a way to get it done.